The light here does not move so much as it rests. It sits upon the surface of the brick, warming the vertical grain of the clay until the wall itself seems to hold a quiet, steady breath. This is a space defined by its edges, a small rectangle of privacy where the world outside is held at a distance by the height of the masonry. You can see where the shadow of the house begins to retreat, leaving behind a cool dampness on the stones that suggests the morning is still new. There is a weight to the stillness here. It is the kind of quiet that exists in the corners of a home, yet it is open to the sky. The bench remains empty, its wood graying slightly, a silent participant in the slow progression of the sun. To look at this space is to understand the value of the perimeter. The walls do not crowd, they protect. They create a vessel for the air to remain still. Nothing is required of this garden. It does not ask for movement or change. It simply offers a place where the light can be observed as it touches the moss between the pavers. The scale is intimate, a domestic sanctuary where the boundaries are clear and the silence is absolute. It is a room without a ceiling, a part of the house that has been given over to the sky. There is no wind to stir the leaves, only the steady, unhurried presence of a space that is content to be exactly as it is, bounded and serene. In this narrow passage, the depth of the space is measured by the rhythm of the stepping stones. The path is tight, hugged closely by the silvered grain of the fence on one side and the solid, familiar texture of the home on the other. It is a transitionary space that has found a reason to be still. The shadows of the ferns are pinned against the wood, dark and intricate, moving only with the imperceptible shift of the earth. Light here is filtered, reaching down through the layers of green to touch the slate with a muted glow. There is a sense of being held within the architecture of the garden. The air feels cooler here, trapped between the structures, carrying the scent of damp earth and shaded stone. It is a walk of only a few steps, yet it feels expansive in its detail. The smallness of the area creates a focus on the ground beneath, on the way the pebbles settle into the gaps. No one is passing through. The path exists for its own sake, a quiet link between the front and the back of a life. The enclosure is comforting, a reminder that even the smallest strip of land can hold a profound sense of peace. There is no sound, only the visual echo of the stones leading the eye toward the soft blur of the garden's end. It is a moment of pause captured in a narrow frame, a domestic corridor where the walls are made of cedar and the floor is made of earth. The deck is an extension of the floor inside, a wooden platform that meets the edge of the world. In this corner, the light of the late afternoon has turned to gold, stretching across the planks to highlight every knot and silvered thread of the timber. The terracotta pots are clustered together, their earthy orange hues glowing in the warmth. They sit in a silent assembly, holding the stillness of the hour. The fence rises high behind them, cutting off the view of the neighboring houses and leaving only a square of the descending sun. This is a very small place, yet it feels complete. The enclosure provides a sense of safety, a domestic harbor where the air is thick with the quiet of the end of the day. There is a lingering warmth on the wood, a memory of the heat that the garden has collected over the hours. Everything is placed with a quiet intention, not for show, but for the simple pleasure of existing within a boundary. The shadows are long and soft, blurring the edges of the pots and the fence. You can feel the proximity of the house, the thin barrier between the lived-in rooms and this outdoor breath. It is a scene of total rest. The garden is not growing or changing in this light. It is merely being. It is a small, elevated island of calm, pinned to the back of a home, waiting for the night to arrive in the silence of the wood and the clay. There is a symmetry in the way the furniture sits upon the stone. Two chairs turned slightly toward one another as if caught in a conversation that ended long ago. The patio is small, a circle of masonry carved out of the greenery, held in place by a low wall that defines its reach. Shadows from an unseen tree drift across the surface, moving with a slowness that is almost impossible to track. The stone is cool, a pale gray that drinks in the light without reflecting it back. This is a residential pocket, a space designed for a single person or two to sit in the presence of the air. The surrounding walls of the property are visible in the periphery, reinforcing the sense of an outdoor room. The air is heavy with the stillness of midday, that particular moment when the world seems to hold its breath. There is no movement in the chairs, no rustle in the leaves. The garden is a series of still lives, composed of texture and light. The low wall acts as a threshold, a gentle barrier between the cultivated stone and the soft earth beyond. It is a place of absolute enclosure, where the scale of the garden matches the scale of a human life. The silence is not empty. It is filled with the visual weight of the materials, the grit of the stone, the smooth metal of the chairs, the deep velvet of the shadows. It is a quiet testament to the beauty of a limited horizon. Space is measured vertically here, with the greenery climbing the walls to reach for the light that the small backyard cannot always hold. The vertical garden is a tapestry of textures, a living wall that muffles the sounds of the outside world. Below, the gravel is a sea of small, pale stones, each one casting a tiny shadow against its neighbor. The light touches the top of the wooden fence, a bright line that marks the boundary of this private world. This is a compact sanctuary, a place where the floor is small but the atmosphere is deep. The enclosure is total, creating a sense of being inside even while standing under the sky. There is a profound stillness in the way the plants hang against the wood, their leaves motionless and heavy with the day's warmth. The gravel path leads nowhere but around itself, a loop of quiet movement in a stationary world. This garden is a retreat, a domestic hidden place that feels disconnected from the rush of time. The scale is modest, yet the density of the green makes it feel like a forest contained within a few square meters. It is a study in the economy of space, where every inch is a participant in the silence. The light is soft, filtered by the height of the walls, creating a sanctuary of shade and subtle color. It is a room of earth and leaf, a small, square piece of peace pinned to the back of a house. The water is a mirror, perfectly still, holding the image of the house and the sky in a dark, liquid frame. It is tucked into the corner of the yard, a small basin of silence surrounded by flat gray stones. The reflections of the windows are crisp, a reminder of the life that exists just a few feet away, yet here, everything is paused. The stones are dry and warm, their rough textures contrasting with the smooth, impenetrable surface of the pond. There is no ripple to break the image, no movement to suggest anything other than total stasis. The garden walls rise up on two sides, cradling the water and protecting it from the wind. This is a tiny aquatic landscape, a miniature world of stone and reflection. The light is clear, illuminating the depths of the pond where the shadows of the rocks descend into the dark. It is a place of profound enclosure, a secret gathered at the edge of the property. The silence here feels liquid, as if the water itself is absorbing the sound of the neighborhood. The scale is intimate, a feature that requires one to stand close to see its detail. It is a domestic quiet, a pause in the narrative of the home, where the only thing happening is the slow passage of light across the surface of the pool. The pond is a centered point of gravity, drawing the stillness of the garden into its depths. The path is a narrow ribbon of brick, worn smooth by years of silent passage. It is flanked by tall, dense hedges that rise up like green walls, narrowing the view and focusing the eye on the light at the end of the corridor. Dappled sunlight falls across the bricks in irregular patches, moving so slowly that the patterns seem permanent. There is a sense of being channeled through the garden, a quiet movement from one point of the home to another. The gate at the end is closed, its latch silent, marking the limit of this private world. The enclosure is rhythmic, a series of green peaks and valleys that hold the air in a cool, shaded grip. There is no sound of footsteps, only the visual suggestion of a journey. The smallness of the alleyway makes it feel like a secret passage, a hidden artery of the residential lot. The light is soft and fractured, broken by the leaves of the hedge into 1,000 tiny glimmers. It is a space of transition that has been allowed to become a place of rest. The bricks are warm where the sun hits them and cool in the shade, a tactile map of the afternoon. The garden is held in a state of perpetual waiting, a corridor of green and clay that connects the house to the silence. It is an intimate scale, a space that can be crossed in a few strides but felt for a long time. The watering can sits on the edge of the dark wood, a silver silhouette against the morning light. It is a tool at rest, its purpose momentarily suspended in the quiet of the garden. The raised bed is small, a contained island of soil and growth that sits close to the back wall of the house. The wood is damp with dew, the grain standing out in the low, raking light. Behind it, the brick wall is a solid, comforting presence, its color muted by the soft atmosphere of the early hour. This is a corner of the garden where the work is slow and the rewards are quiet. The enclosure is felt in the proximity of the masonry, the way the house seems to wrap its arms around this small patch of earth. There is no movement here, only the steady increase of the light as the sun climbs over the roofline. The air is still and clean, carrying the scent of wet wood and cold metal. It is a domestic scene of preparation, a pause before the day begins, yet it feels complete in its stillness. The scale is deeply personal, a garden that can be reached without a step, a space that exists within arm's length. The silence is thick, a blanket of morning air that muffles the world. It is a study in the beauty of the stationary, a moment where the tool and the garden are one, held in the amber of the early light. The arbor creates a room within a room, a skeletal structure that the vines have claimed as their own. Beneath it, the stone bench is a cool, solid horizontal, a place for a body that isn't there. The light is fractured by the leaves, falling in soft, green-tinged slices onto the stone and the ground. The high fence in the background ensures that this is a world of its own, a private nook where the sky is only visible through the gaps in the foliage. It is a space of deep enclosure, a small, square sanctuary at the end of a residential lot. The stillness is total. There is no breeze to rustle the vines, no shadow that moves with any haste. The garden is a series of layers of the wood of the fence, the stone of the bench, the green of the leaves, stacked together in a few meters of space. The scale is intimate, designed for a single occupant to sit and watch the light. It is a quiet, domestic architecture, a place where the home ends and the garden begins to take over. The silence is anchored by the weight of the bench, a permanent fixture in a changing world. It is a moment of total presence, where the only thing that matters is the way the light touches the leaf and the leaf touches the stone. This is the heart of the small garden, a point of absolute rest. The tree stands alone in its pot, a vertical line in a horizontal world. Its shadow is long and thin, a dark needle pointing across the pale gravel toward the house. The patio is a simple space, a square of small stones that crunch under a weight that is currently absent. The white wall of the residence acts as a blank canvas for the play of light and shadow, catching the brightness of the sun and reflecting it back into the small yard. This is a garden of minimalism, where the enclosure is felt through the lack of distraction. The air is still, and the heat of the afternoon is held by the white masonry. There is a sense of deliberate calm, a space that has been cleared of noise. The smallness of the area is its greatest asset, creating a focus on the singular tree and the texture of the ground. No wind disturbs the thin branches, and no sound breaks the silence of the gravel. It is a residential void, a beautiful nothingness that provides a place for the mind to rest. The proximity to the house is clear, the garden being a simple extension of the interior's white walls. It is a study in light and geometry, a small, enclosed world where the only event is the slow rotation of a shadow. The silence is absolute, a domestic peace that feels both modern and timeless. The border is a thin line of color pressed against the silver gray of the fence. The purple flowers are small and dense, their petals holding the last of the afternoon sun with a soft, glowing intensity. Beside them, the stone path follows the curve of the fence, a narrow track that leads the eye toward a corner that is out of sight. This is a garden of small details, where the scale is measured in inches and the beauty is found in the proximity of the earth. The enclosure is provided by the fence, a vertical barrier that keeps the world at bay and focuses the attention on the life at its feet. There is no movement in the blossoms, no sway in the stems. The air is heavy and warm, a quiet blanket that settles over the path. The stones are smooth, their surfaces reflecting a dull, comfortable light. It is a residential edge, the place where the property meets its limit, turned into a scene of quiet beauty. The silence is profound, a characteristic of a space that is lived in but currently empty. The smallness of the garden makes every flower feel significant, every stone an anchor. It is a peaceful, bounded world, a narrow strip of domestic calm that exists in the shadow of the home. The light slowly fades, pulling the color from the petals and leaving behind a memory of the day's warmth. The gate is a fine-lined silhouette, a delicate barrier of black iron set within the heavy mass of a brick arch. Ivy has claimed the masonry, its leaves a dark, glossy green that softens the hard edges of the construction. Light streams through the bars of the gate, casting a striped pattern on the ground beyond, a reminder of the world on the other side. But here inside the arch, the air is cool and still. This is a threshold, a point of entry that has become a destination in its own right. The enclosure is architectural, a solid frame that defines the view and limits the horizon. The smallness of the garden is suggested by the intimacy of the gate, a portal designed for a single person to pass through. There is no sound of hinges, no movement of the ivy. The scene is frozen in a moment of quiet anticipation. The brickwork is old, its surfaces pitted and textured by time, holding the silence of the garden within its weight. It is a residential secret, a piece of the home's history written in stone and iron. The light is a physical presence, a golden intrusion into the shaded sanctuary of the arch. It is a place of absolute pause, where the gate remains closed and the garden remains a private, silent world, held within the grip of the ivy and the brick. The bench is tucked into the corner as if it were part of the wall itself. It is a simple piece of furniture, weathered to a soft gray, sitting in the deep peace of a garden's edge. Behind it, the low stone wall provides a solid boundary, its rough surface a contrast to the smooth, planed wood of the seat. The light is filtered through the canopy of a nearby tree, falling in moving circles of brightness across the bench and the ground. But even this movement is slow, a rhythmic pulse that doesn't break the stillness. This is a tiny pocket of domestic space, a place intended for a quiet thought or a moment of rest. The enclosure is gentle but firm, the walls of the garden creating a safe, small horizon. The air is cool in this shaded nook, carrying the faint scent of stone and dry wood. There is no one here, and the silence is allowed to grow thick and heavy. The scale is perfectly matched to the human body, an intimate piece of the residential landscape. The shadows are long and soft, blurring the lines between the garden and the home. It is a study in the beauty of the corner, the way a small space can feel like a complete world if the light is right and the silence is maintained. The garden is at rest, and the bench is its silent witness. The path is a series of wooden planks, a boardwalk through a sea of tall, motionless grass. It is narrow and straight, leading toward the boundary of the wooden fence that marks the end of the property. The evening light is low and soft, turning the grass into a hazy, golden blur that hems in the path on both sides. There is a sense of being submerged in the garden, the enclosure coming from the height of the greenery and the proximity of the fence. The air is still, the long blades of grass standing upright as if held by the silence itself. The wood of the path is warm, having absorbed the sun all day, and it now radiates a gentle heat into the cooling air. This is a small-scale transition, a few steps that feel like a journey through a private wilderness. The residential context is felt in the neatness of the fence and the controlled nature of the path. There is no sound of footsteps, no rustle of the grass. The garden is a quiet, golden corridor, a place where the movement of the day has come to a halt. The scale is modest, a narrow slice of land that has been given a sense of depth and purpose. It is a moment of total enclosure, where the world is reduced to the path beneath and the grass on either side. The silence is a golden thread binding the garden to the coming night. The table is small, a metal circle that holds a single white cup. A thin wisp of steam rises from the tea, the only movement in the entire garden, a slow and delicate signal of a life recently present. The morning light is cool and clear, catching the rim of the cup and the surface of the liquid. Behind the table, the green hedges and the stone wall form a solid, impenetrable backdrop, sealing this small space off from the rest of the world. This is the ultimate domestic sanctuary, a tiny patch of the earth where the morning is greeted in silence. The enclosure is total, the garden acting as a private room where the only ceiling is the sky. There is no sound, only the visual evidence of a pause. The smallness of the table and the single cup emphasize the intimacy of the space, a garden built for one. The air is still, and the shadows are short, the day just beginning its slow climb. The stones of the wall are cold, while the tea is warm, a balance of temperatures in the quiet air. It is a scene of perfect stasis, a moment where the house and the garden meet in the simple act of a morning routine. The silence is profound, a characteristic of a residential space that has found its center. The garden is complete, a small, enclosed, and quiet world that requires nothing more than to be seen in this light.